Hello, everybody, folks, fellow growers. This is John from Sow and Grow Regenerative, and today I've decided to do a video about what's going on in my life, what I'm trying to do, what I'm dealing with, what I'm trying to transform, and life right now is really difficult for everyone. People around the world are struggling, and many people are confused and conflicted and feel powerless. And sometimes all this stuff can just be so overwhelming that it really cuts through just a lot of the pain, you know, and I'm feeling it right now. I can sense that there are some big changes coming, good and bad. And sometimes, we can view these things as not good or bad because as human beings, we don't really know the beautiful workings of the universe. They astound us. Sometimes they make us sad. Sometimes they fill us with joy. And the essential thing is that we can trust our life. And, in my opinion, through my experience, when you're fully aligned with your purpose and your mission, and you create a vision and you carry it out on a day-to-day basis, however much you can give on that given day, this is how we can really overcome all the challenges that are presented to us. And as I was saying about the universe, it's wondrous. The cosmos is order, and it sometimes looks chaotic, but that depends greatly on the lens that you view it through. And through my experience, I started off kind of having a normal life, a normal childhood. I was bullied a lot at school, which kind of sent me inwards. So I had this kind of, my home life was quite nice. My parents were really cool and they brought me up well. And my school life was just really traumatic, and what that stopped me from doing was really expressing myself. But I always carried in my heart this love for nature and love for human beings, and it's taken me up till now, my mid-40s, to really appreciate what that actually means, because it's not until you can really start truly expressing yourself, or you can even just, entertain the idea of truly expressing yourself, that things start to make more sense. Sometimes I lose sight of this. Sometimes I can see it very clearly, mainly when I meditate, or I'm chanting, or I'm in the garden tending to my plants, or at my allotment, or engaged in something creative, where we can put aside all the stuff, all the negative stuff that's happening in our life, and we can, broaden our perspective on things. And when I, maybe 13, 14 years ago, well, it was back in 2009, I was at a really low point in my life, one of a few. And I was, a heavy drug user. I used to party all the time, or really what I was doing was I was escaping from myself, from getting to know myself. And I didn't like myself, and I'm sure many people have been through this before, so it's not like new news. But really, the point of me saying this is because when in 2009, I was at kind of one of my lowest points, and I had a friend, um, and she introduced me to Buddhism. And that was a big turning point in my life, because what I realized was that everything I thought of as a kid, this connectedness of everything. I remember lying awake when I was like early teenager in my bed and just thinking about the universe and how vast it was, and how these things were almost, unexplainable. And so I started, practicing Buddhism diligently, and, with all my heart, and I threw everything into it, and this was a way to kind of take that addictive part of my personality that was before was kind of channeled towards drugs and having a hedonistic life, um, to a practice that was really looking inwards, and trying to, or doing my best to to find out who I was, you know. And so this brought me so many like amazing benefits, um, physical ones, and ones that were more kind of focused on understanding who I was and accepting who I was, loving to a degree who I was, um, and it taught me that there was more to life than just what I saw, what I could see, you know, more than just the five senses, you know. And at that time, my family and friends kind of, some of them thought I'd joined a cult. Um, I did become quite preachy. um, but this was a way of my expressing myself. I realized that now, I had the best intentions. I wanted people to feel the greatness of that thing I discovered, which was Buddhism, this interconnectedness of everything, and that everything affects everything else. And that the reason for the problems in the world were due to how people felt about themselves, you know, because when we really love ourselves, we want to give that love to other people, and we'll at all costs we will do our best to not allow anyone to tell us what is right for our life, and we can be guided by something greater than um, authority, because what someone once said to me, that I'm my own authority. One of my old friends, Sky, uh, and so it brought so much to my life. I chanted 2 or 3 hours a day, and I was studying about Buddhism, about the principles, and how these things were all related to each other, how the oneness of the self and the environment, and the oneness of the body and the mind. And that sent me on. I had the great fortune of having a partner who was also practicing Buddhism. And times were really difficult. We went through a lot together personally, and a lot of stuff from the past came up, but we were really trying to support each other and others around us to see the greatness of their life. So without this spiritual practice, my life would have been very different, and it obviously hasn't been plain sailing since then. Far from it, actually. My life probably would have been more constant. But so I practiced for a long time, and I belonged to an organization called the SGI, and it brought me so much. And I did many different training programs, and it taught me how to really be a man, how to care for other people and protect other people, and be diligent in understanding why people felt the way they did. And it allowed me to do a lot of inner work. It allowed me to understand what the trauma I had in my life represented, And in Buddhism, it's karma, this karma that we're born with and we grow up with. is ours to transform into something more valuable than just, oh, poor me kind of thing. So, you know, I practiced for many, many years, and I did many different jobs, and really Buddhism, what it did was allowed me to get out of the 9 to 5 stuff and focus more on trying to help people. So I worked for, you know, charities, and I did lobbying, and as I grew and grew and grew, you know, I did different things, and yeah, so, and this all led me to around that same time, you know, maybe in 2012, 2013, I started growing food. First, I started helping my dad out on the allotment, and then with my then partner back then, uh, we managed to get an allotment plot, and we started growing food. And she loved plants and flowers, so it was a great experience. And it took me back to when I was a kid, and I was fascinated with nature. I was fascinated with animals. I wanted to be a wildlife photographer, and I realized, you know, this connection to nature is inherent within all of us, just like the Buddha nature, you know. And the Buddha nature is nothing more than understanding that we are part of nature. And the more we learn to let go of the conditioning, the more we can actually become free. So I continue to kind of grow food. Hello, Roland. I continue to grow food, and we were sorry, that's Roland's. Hello, mate. I continue to grow food, and, you know, for a few years, then, you know, lots of stuff happened, and I went through many different kind of experiences. And it wasn't until like maybe 2020 that I kind of come across, it was 2019 actually, I came across permaculture. And I was like, wow, this is like really cool. This is basically like Buddhism. It's saying that everything's connected, and from the micro to the macro, and that there is no separation between anything. Everything is affecting everything else, on the atomic level and also on the cosmic level, you know. And that, you know, I'd studied a lot of different things up until that point. You know, I'd studied, you know, about astrology and astronomy, and you know, psychology, and, you know, obviously with this kind of spiritual underpinning of stuff. But permaculture was a way for me to exercise this connection with nature in a practical way, and planting a seed and tending to it, watching it grow into a seedling, and then helping it to maturity so it could produce its fruit, passed on to the next generation and feed me at the same time, was it was just such a beautiful experience. So I realized that this was what I wanted to do. And it took me from 2012 until 2019 to really make sense. You know, I'd never had the urgency before. And then with all the other events that started happening towards the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, you know, when the world was literally turned upside down, and the fear grew globally. You know, this was no longer the threat of the threat of suppression and oppression was no longer in a distant country. It was on our doorstep. And no more at that time did my spiritual practice and my practice of growing food mean so much to me. So, you know, the last 3 years have been insane. I don't know about you guys, but I felt so many emotions. And you know, I realized I was still carrying trauma. And then I thought back to my Buddhist practice, and I thought, you know, when I was supporting other people and I had a purpose, I was unstoppable. I had enthusiasm. I had that spirit of never giving up and constantly expanding my understanding and my interpretation and um, my love, you know, for the planet. And that's the greatest thing about nature, about growing food, is you can, all the other stuff makes sense when you look at how a plant evolves in its natural environment. And permaculture was that key to help me to have a theoretical foundation and build upon that. And the parallels I saw with Buddhism were just amazing. So I started to tell people about permaculture, and they didn't really get it. They, you know, it's hard to get it until you see it. So I started growing more food, and I started getting my friends involved, my friend Juliana and George, and we started to make compost. And as 2021 rolled on, we got introduced to all these different people who were kind of on the same path of us. You know, they were deciding to step out of the mainstream and create something new. You know, there's that phrase which is like, build it and they will come. It took me beginning of 2021, you know, until mid 2021, I was really, really down on myself, you know, and down on the world, and I was angry, and all I wanted to do was tell people that they were wrong, you know, that they'd made wrong decisions. And I was still known as a preacher. So you know, I kept carrying on with these cycles, and I realized that I had to let go of stuff. I had to let go of being right. I had to let go of trying to persuade people. I had to let go of all the pain of the past and the worries of the future. I had to live now, and I still struggle with it every day. It's my spiritual practice that allows me to break through that, and it's my practice of permaculture, and now my research and study into soil, that has started to allow me to realize that I can be free. And yeah, so now, fast forward to 2023, I've completed my permaculture design course. I'm at the end of designing my allotment. It's been 6 months. You know, I've worked really hard in doing the design itself. You know, I drew it all out on paper and used pens, and that was a really creative experience. That was beautiful. Took me back to when I was a youth, and I used to love drawing. And I started to action it, you know, and I started to think, wow, like this is amazing, you know. So, you know, I'll show you in a later video when it's actually complete. But you know, it's a very small plot. It's like 54 square meters, you know, so 28 meters by 5 meters, something like that. And so I came up with this whole design, and you know, I had a food forest in the middle, and I had either one side I had like a wildflower bit, and my shed, and I built an extra structure off of my shed to capture rainwater. I built 2 ponds. I started to build a wild area bit where I planted loads of beautiful flowers, which I'd never done before. Built some compost heaps, planted out loads of fruit bushes, so loganberries, raspberries, tayberries, and black currants. And I got a fig tree in, and that was part of the food forest bit. And I built swales. You can see my previous video for that. and I built new raised beds. So I've just started planting out. The food forest is finished, and that's something for the future. That's something for the long term. And I hope when I leave, whoever takes over my allotment will be as excited as I am about the food forest. So I'm nearly completed with that. And it's a massive milestone for me. You know, it's taken me, I started at the beginning of January. So I started ripping everything out and then rebuilding. And the weather's been all over the place. You know, we've had cold snaps. It was the coldest May for a long time in the UK. We've had quite a bit of rain, but in Essex, it's just been really dry for the last month, you know. So I've had to really kind of be creative about where I can get water from, things like that, you know. So I I was lucky enough a few months ago to get a nice tax rebate, and that's kept me going. You know, I haven't actually worked for anyone else for a long time. So the last 6 months has been really about establishing my allotment, trying to, or being able to show people on the allotment what permaculture is about. And I've started doing my webinars and my videos and these types of things. So I'm constantly expanding. You know, I'm not a fan of digital technology. I know it has its uses, obviously, but I'm much more of a face-to-face person. So after finishing this course, a new course came up for me with my mentor, my teacher, Matt Powers, and it's called Regenerative Soil. And I was always interested in soil since I started practicing permaculture. My friend calls me the soil man. But I was always fascinated with it, and I didn't really have any money. I had like just enough money left to do this course. And I talked to it about with my girlfriend Monica, and I was umming and ahhing, and then I chanted and I meditated over it, and I was like, right, you haven't got the money, but you have to do this course. It feels right. It feels right to take the chance. It feels right to believe in yourself. Trust that the universe is giving you what you need, whether that comes through benefit or challenge. It's what you need. And it excites me when I learn about these things. I'm constantly in awe of how beautiful nature is, and how, even though we try to explain everything by science, and it's great, science is great for these things, we'll never, I don't think I'll ever know everything or work it out. But that's the greatness of it, is like it's mystic, right? In Buddhism, they call it the mystic law. So I've started this regenerative soil course. I'm 6 weeks in now. It's a 20-week course. By the end of it, I will know the foundations of soil, and it's a very complex system. I mean, it's a universe. You know, they've only found between 3 and 5% of the soil life, identified it, you know, genetically. So being being part of this course has allowed me to connect with other people and be inspired by them. You know, some of them own farms, some of them just are doing this in their garden. I mean, it doesn't matter, because permaculture and regenerative agriculture is scalable. You can do it on a balcony, or you can do it on a 1,000-acre farm. And through this, I've met loads of really cool people. I've joined up with organizations like the PFFA, and I've realized that everyone has a purpose. Just like in the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom, everything has purpose. And although it looks like everything's competing, it's the universal law, these unseen forces that allow everything to work. It allows everything to be balanced. And it's our disconnection with nature that has caused this imbalance. These tyrants they can't rise unless the world is out of balance, and the universe is basically, it's expressing itself in all these different forms. You know, whoever you want to call out, I don't want to call out anyone anymore. It's about finding solutions, but these are all functions of the universe. If it weren't for these people that are trying to take us further away from our connection to nature, further away from our connection to true health, to true happiness, to abundance, to community, would these revolutions ever happen? You know, this new revolution of food, of growing healthy food, of having healthy communities, is only happening because the 1% are making a lot of decisions that aren't in the favor of everyone else. So now the future is about this. It's about connection. It's about finding purpose. It's about aligning with your true self. You know, you and me, we're all the same. You know, we all want happiness. We all want abundance. We want community. We want to have fun. We want to be creative. We want to learn, you know, and this is the brilliance of the universe, right? Is like, sometimes I just think, wow, all the people I've met in the last 3 years, I never would have met if it weren't for the global events that happened. This is the macrocosm to the microcosm. So I want to encourage everyone, you know, if you're feeling down, feel down. You know, it's okay to feel down. But remember that, you know, that famous saying, this too shall pass. And really, you know, a few of my friends have been going through some, and including my girlfriend, have been going through some really tough times, man. They're, you know, they're really, really difficult. And when you're a sensitive and empathetic being, you feel the trauma of everyone else, you know. But we are here for a reason. We are here to build new, healthy, abundant systems, you know, whether that be our communities or whether that be growing food or raising animals or making music. You know, we can allow our creative spirits to express without fear of judgment. So yeah, you know, I just wanted to make this video because I really want to be authentic. You know, I'm trying to break through the veils that the conditioning has created. And, you know, I feel it's part of my purpose to empower and encourage other people to even just entertain that idea, you know. So, you know, I hope that, well, whatever, you know, I hope that people can get something from what I'm saying. So just a couple of updates, you know, as I said, I'm doing this course, so I'm aiming towards writing a book, and it's going to be about the connection from the microcosm to the macrocosm, everything in between. And I'm also designing a permaculture course, but it's not just going to be about permaculture. It's going to be about the soil. It's going to be about how to prepare. It's going to be about self-sufficiency, with this kind of spiritual undertone of it as well, and how that can really help us to see things more clearly. And I hope to be doing more work and workshops with some organizations that I'm in contact with. And you know, I really, my determination is to create as much value as I can in my lifetime. Because I know from my experience, certainly in Buddhism, is that when you really dedicate your life to creating value and you're of service to people, that actually, you know, the simultaneous cause and effect comes into life. We actually don't just gain, you know, emotional and physical benefit from these things. We actually create the world we want to live in, and it acts as a feedback system, right? You know, it's like when your plants are healthy, the rest of the system becomes healthy. When the soil's healthy, the plants are healthy. And so I know that the benefits will come back to me. I'm not expecting them, but I just know that's how the universe works. And we never know what's going to happen in the future. So to be prepared, especially mentally and emotionally, is really key, because some big traumatic event could happen and it could knock us off our feet, you know, and we can easily forget our purpose. And your purpose can come in many different ways. Your purpose can be raising children. Your purpose can be building stuff. Your purpose can be growing. Your purpose can be making music. It can be all sorts of different things. And the most important thing is that you are yourself. You know, I look up to people, and sometimes I think, oh, they're better than me, but they're not. They're just different. You know, we're all different. So that's really my message: is be yourself, realize your greatness, accept yourself for all your mistakes, all the things that you might regret, you think you regret, but they are part of who you are. And as long as you can grow from that experience and transform, you can actually live the life that you want, the life that you deserve. So thank you for listening. I will be doing a workshop this month. The date might be changing because I've got so much on at the moment. It's quite difficult to plan for it. But any of you guys that are kind of have been on my webinars before, please just bear in mind that, yeah, I don't want to disappoint anyone, but at the same time, I've got to kind of look after myself. You know, self-care is really important. So I hope you're all well. And, you know, if you think this can inspire anyone, please share it. I don't care about how many subscribers I have. That's really not important to me. But I do want to inspire and empower people if they feel like I do sometimes. So thank you for listening and watching. This is John from Sow and Grow Regenerative. Take care and keep planting those seeds. Keep and especially in your heart, you know, that's really important. So until next time, goodbye.